this morning. He is the man Bono often called the fifth member. Music legend Paul McGuinness managed U2 into international superstardom for more than 35 years, and he joins us now live from the ARIA masterclass. Good morning, Paul. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, Natasha.
Now, I understand you are the brains behind the extraordinary success of U2. Is that correct?
Oh, not at all. They are their own brains. The trick, the key to being a successful manager is having a great client, and I was fortunate enough to have the greatest clients.
You're also very modest, obviously, Paul. How do you take a band that has, sure, all the talent in the world and turn them from someone who's playing in a pub in Ireland to the biggest rock and roll act on the planet?
Well, in fact, when I started managing them, they were too young to get into pubs.
Wow.
So the early gigs were in a car park, and they were still at school. And in those days, I was a film technician. I was an AD, production manager, but I wanted to manage a big band. And so the key to that was finding the right one. And I was fortunate enough to be introduced to U2 when they were about 17 and I was 27.
And did you know immediately that these guys were something special, that they were going to be a big band?
Yeah, I kind of did. They were extremely smart. They were very ambitious. They couldn't really play their instruments, but that didn't really mean, didn't seem to be as important as the intelligence and the ambition, and indeed Bono's own charisma. I mean, he was a very unusual performer. In the early days of U2, punk was in the air, and the cool thing was for the punk singers to spit at the audience and ignore them generally. Bono was hungry for eye contact, kind of ran around the front of the stage, making contact with the audience, and he has continued to do that to this day.
You've seen them evolve. I mean, how has fame changed the band?
Well, in the same way as all people change between the age of 17 and 52, 53, which is what they are now. It's been, it's been a wonderful trip. They had success with probably their third album. They didn't have success right at the beginning, but they always understood that they had two parallel careers, one as live performers and one as recording artists, and the two were kind of separate but intermingled. And it was probably good in a way that we didn't have hits on record right at the beginning, and they developed early on as a really strong live act, and that was fun in its own way. A lot of traveling around Europe in the back of a van.
And those middle albums are just incredible. The Joshua Tree, Rattle and Hum, Achtung Baby. What about, though, the most recent one, Paul, that suddenly landed in the iTunes accounts of all these Apple users and turned into this, which I think was a little bit unfair personally, but turned into this massive PR debacle for the group. And they actually had to apologise for giving away an album for free. What did you think of the strategy behind that? Is it a mistake that you would have made in your day?
Well, I'm not going to diss them now that I'm no longer directly involved, but I wasn't directly involved. I thought there were a couple of avoidable errors in that kind of sticking it into people's iTunes accounts or into their collections without asking them was unnecessary. It would have been just as easy to say, would you like this record? Tick this box. And for some reason they didn't do that. And I think the other thing that kind of got up people's noses was a press story that took on a life of its own, which was that Apple had paid them $100 million, which was clearly nonsense. But it gained legs and went around the world, and I think people got annoyed with that. Apple don't pay out things like that, sums of money like that. That might have been the amount of money that Apple were planning to spend on the ad campaign worldwide over several months. But that certainly wasn't a payment to U2. Apple paid Universal, their record company, a fee, and then iTunes gave away the music. That was the basic transaction. An iPod contains 40,000 songs if you fill it up. I don't think the question of overloading people's iPods arises.
Paul, thank you so much for joining us. Have a lovely time in Australia and, of course, at the ARIA Awards. We really appreciate you joining us.